The sky above Earth burned red as the alien fleet arrived. Thousands of silver vessels filled the upper atmosphere, casting shadows across the oceans and cities below. Power grids flickered across continents as humans watched the impossible unfold. Every news channel went silent when the largest ship, shaped like a blade of light, spoke through the skies. A voice calm and cold echoed in every language at once. Humanity of Earth, the Galactic Council summons you for judgment. In orbit, Earth's defense fleet held position. The human ships were smaller, darker, and fewer in number, but their lines were sharp, their formations precise. The flagship, Resolute Dawn, carried the emblem of the United Earth Alliance. On its bridge, Admiral Reed stood with his hands clasped behind his back. The alien voice continued to demand surrender, but the Admiral only stared at the tactical map. He could see the alien positions, too perfect, too confident. "They think we'll kneel," he said quietly. Commander Ellis stepped forward. "Orders, sir?" Reed's eyes narrowed. "Bring the mirror network online." Across Earth's orbit, thousands of small satellites powered up at once. They were not weapons in the traditional sense, they were adaptive reflectors, designed to bounce, distort, and scatter every form of energy detection. The alien fleet's sensors began to blur, showing dozens of false readings. Their communication lines filled with static. The alien voice faltered. "What is this interference?" On the bridge of Resolute Dawn, Reed smiled faintly. "You came to judge us. We came to learn how you think." Then the human fleet moved. It didn't fire. It didn't charge. Instead, it created illusions, ghost ships, invisible maneuvers, false trajectories. Every alien vessel tried to lock onto targets that did not exist. Within minutes, chaos filled their formation. When the alien admiral demanded explanation, Reed gave none. "This is Earth," he said, his voice steady. "We don't need bigger ships. We just need better minds." The alien armada eventually withdrew, confused and humiliated. They claimed it wasn't a defeat, merely a misunderstanding. But the entire galaxy had seen the broadcast, and so the Galactic Council called for a hearing. The judgment of Earth. Humanity would answer before every starborn race. The Council chamber was an impossible structure, floating above the event horizon of a quiet black hole. The chamber's ceiling opened to a swirling sky of frozen light. Thousands of alien delegates filled the tiers, beings of crystal, scale, mist, and thought. At the center stood a circular platform surrounded by energy streams that carried sound, scent, and light between species. When humanity entered, the entire chamber fell silent. Ambassador Lena Voss walked forward, her steps slow and deliberate. She wore no armor, no weapon, only the dark blue of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. Behind her stood two silent guards, their faces unreadable. Above her, the High Speaker of the Galactic Council, a being of shifting form, extended a tendril of light. "Humanity," it said, "you are charged with interference, deception, and military aggression. How do you plead?" Lena did not bow. "We plead intelligent." The chamber erupted with noise, growls, clicking, mechanical tones. The High Speaker's glow dimmed. "You mock this council?" "We mock no one," Lena said calmly. "We were attacked without provocation. We defended ourselves with strategy, not violence. Your fleets mistook discipline for hostility," the alien representatives murmured. One tall figure from the Varn Collective hissed. "Your world is a death world. You breed in storms, drink poison water, and wage endless war. You are not fit for the stars." Lena met its many eyes without blinking. "And yet here we stand." The High Speaker waved its tendrils for silence. "Enough. The Council will view evidence of your species' conduct. You claim intelligence. Let us see how you use it." Lights dimmed. The chamber's center filled with a projection. The memory of Seren Prime, a peaceful garden world of the Alari species. The recording began with bright laughter, voices of young aliens on a school trip. A small group of them spoke excitedly about their new classmate, a human exchange student. The council delegates leaned forward. Most of them had never seen a human child outside of official broadcasts. The girl on the screen smiled shyly as the aliens asked her questions. She said her name softly, Mira Hale. Her accent was gentle, her tone kind. The students teased her about Earth being a dangerous place, a death world. She laughed and said, "It's only dangerous if you forget to pay attention." Lena watched the footage without expression. She already knew where it would end. The aliens in the recording pointed their cameras toward Mira as she walked across the green field. They joked, called her brave for stepping near the wild grass where the local insects hissed. Then the sound changed. The sky dimmed. A strange low hum filled the air. The students stopped laughing. One of them whispered, "What is that?" Mira turned slowly, her eyes scanning the distance. Her expression changed. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. She stepped forward while the others backed away. The feed cut to static for a moment. Then came a scream. The chamber's silence was thick and cold. The high speaker's voice trembled with curiosity. What happened next? Lena clasped her hands behind her back. That footage was taken 2 days before contact with your enforcement fleets. It spread across the outer colonies within hours. The council called it proof of human danger. An insectoid delegate clattered its mandibles. A child facing a threat without fear. It is unnatural. What did she do? Lena's voice was calm. She survived. The high speaker turned toward her. And the others? Lena's silence was the only answer. The lights rose slowly. Across the chamber, every species representative whispered theories. Some called it manipulation. Others called it evolution. But no one could explain why the predators of Serene Prime had gone extinct within a day of that incident. The high speaker leaned forward. You claim your kind adapts. You claim intelligence over violence. Yet every event involving your species ends in destruction. Lena met its gaze. Destruction is your word for survival. The council members hissed and clicked in protest, but the high speaker raised its hand for silence. We will recess. The council must review the remainder of this footage. Humanity's fate will be decided after full examination. Lena bowed slightly. Of course. As she turned to leave, her aide whispered, They're scared. Lena didn't look back. They should be. Outside the chamber, 1,000 alien reporters swarmed the corridors. They shouted questions in dozens of languages. The human envoy moved through them without a word. The recording had already leaked across the galactic network. Billions watched the blurred image of a small human girl facing something unseen. Billions heard the screams that followed. In the shadows of the docking bay, a young alien journalist watched the footage again. He paused it at the final frame before the cut. There was a faint reflection on the lens, a shape behind Mira. Not human, not animal. Something else. He zoomed in, trembling. The shape seemed to move even within the frozen image. His voice shook. What are you? In orbit above the council station, the human ship waited, its dark hull absorbing the light of distant stars. Admiral Reed's voice came through the comms. The hearing has begun. How long before they realize what they're seeing? Lena's voice answered from the chamber below. They'll see the truth soon enough. They called Earth a Deathworld. Let's see how they handle what death taught us to become. Far away on the surface of Serene Prime, a cleanup team searched the ruins of the school where the recording had been made. They found claw marks on walls made of alloy stronger than steel. They found strange ash in the grass, and one of them found a small human badge scorched but intact. It read, Student Exchange Program, Earth Division. When he picked it up, the grass around him folded inward as if hiding from him. He froze, breath held. The forest was silent, too silent. Then something moved in the distance, something small, walking upright. It stopped, turned its head toward them, and vanished between the trees. Back in orbit, the Council's analysis team prepared to restore the corrupted ending of the recording. The lead technician whispered to his assistant, The file name changed by itself. The assistant frowned. To what? He looked at the display and read the words aloud. The Deathworld girl. And then, for a brief moment before the screen went black, a single frame appeared, a pair of human eyes, wide open, staring back at them through the code. The alien fleet appeared without warning over Mars. Their ships were vast, layered with glowing armor that shimmered like a storm of stars. Human colonies across the red planet went silent as the fleet formed a wall in orbit, blotting out the sun. From Earth's deep space radar, the images came through grainy but clear. Hundreds of vessels aligned in battle formation. Every signal they sent carried the same message. This is a controlled sector. Leave or be removed. In the command center beneath Olympus Base, General Aaron Holt stood before the main screen. His face was calm, his voice measured. They want to test us, he said. They think we'll run. Around him, officers watched in tense silence. The alien fleet had the advantage in numbers and technology, but humanity had something they never accounted for: human unpredictability. "Bring the decoy network online," Holt ordered. Across Mars, hundreds of old mining rigs and cargo ships suddenly came to life. From orbit, the alien fleet saw a wave of human warships powering up. Their sensors screamed warnings of weapon charges, reactor spikes, and missile locks. What they didn't know was that most of those ships were empty, automated drones running false combat profiles. The alien admiral responded immediately, ordering his fleet to reposition. They divided their formation, sending half their ships to flank what they thought was the main human force. Holt watched quietly as their formation shifted. "Predictable," he said under his breath. Then he gave the real order: "Deploy the shadow array." From behind Mars's moons, a dozen small, almost invisible vessels emerged. They carried no heavy weapons, only electromagnetic pulse emitters tuned to the alien power signatures. Within seconds, the alien fleet's sensors flickered and dimmed. Their navigation systems went blind. The aliens fired wildly into the empty void, hitting their own decoys, tearing through their own formation. The human fleet never fired a single shot. When it was over, the alien commander sent a message. "You play with deception," it said. General Holt replied, "No, we play to survive." The galaxy watched the footage. The Council watched too. Humanity had once again proven that they didn't need more power. They only needed to be smarter. The judgment against Earth deepened. Some called them dangerous. Others called them the future. Far away on the peaceful world of Seren Prime, none of that mattered yet. The sky was clear, the lakes calm, and the alien schoolchildren were preparing for their new classmate. They gathered in the courtyard, their strange forms shining under the soft twin suns. Some were tall and scaled, others translucent and glowing. They talked excitedly about the new arrival from Earth. "She's from the Deathworld," one said with a nervous laugh. "Maybe she eats metal," another joked. Their teacher, an older being named Lauren, adjusted the recorder strapped to his chest. "Remember," he said, "this is a cultural exchange. You will treat her with respect. We record everything for the education archives." Moments later, a small ship landed on the school grounds. Its hull was dark and smooth, marked with the insignia of the United Earth Diplomatic Program. The door opened and a single human stepped out, a young girl with pale skin and dark hair tied neatly behind her head. She carried a small pack and looked around with calm eyes. "I'm Mira Hale," she said softly. The students stared. She didn't look dangerous. She looked fragile, even quiet. But there was something strange in the way she stood, still, balanced, aware of every sound. Lauren smiled, trying to ease the tension. "Welcome to Seren Prime, Mira. We're honored to have you." She nodded politely. "Thank you. It's beautiful here." The first few days were peaceful. Mira attended classes, learned about alien biology, and listened carefully to every word. She never spoke much, but when she did, her voice carried quiet confidence. The students followed her everywhere, fascinated by her habits. She could walk for hours under the heavier gravity without tiring. She ate food that others found bitter or toxic. And once, when a malfunctioning drone fell from the ceiling, she caught it with one hand before it hit anyone. The students laughed in awe. "Deathworld reflexes," they shouted. They thought it was a game. Mira just smiled faintly. They filmed her constantly. Everything she did became part of their project, Life of a Human Student. The videos spread quickly through Seren Prime's network. In them, Mira looked calm and kind, even shy. The alien audiences found her fascinating, a creature from a planet of storms acting so peacefully among them. But there were things the recordings didn't show. Animals around the campus began to act strangely. Small flying creatures that normally filled the trees disappeared. Even the plants seemed to react when Mira walked by, their colors shifting slightly, petals closing. The air sensors in the school garden began to detect faint chemical changes, like the scent of fear. But from the plants themselves. One evening, the students gathered by the lake for their project's final scene. They joked, laughed, and recorded everything. Mira stood by the water, watching the sunset over the silver hills. One of the students, a tall insectoid named Rylan, pointed his camera at her. "Say something for the documentary." She looked over her shoulder. "You shouldn't be here after dark." They laughed again, thinking she was teasing, Then, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the water rippled. The alien students kept filming, assuming it was part of the planet's wildlife, but Mira's posture changed. She dropped her pack and whispered, "Don't move." The laughter stopped. From beneath the lake, a low growl echoed. The water began to boil. Something large moved beneath the surface, something with too many limbs and no eyes. Raylan's camera trembled in his hands. "What is that?" Mira didn't answer. She stepped between the students and the water, her eyes locked on the ripples. "Back away, slowly." Lauren, the teacher, called from behind them, "Everyone inside." But before anyone could move, the surface exploded. A massive creature burst from the lake, its skin black and glassy, its jaws lined with rows of needle teeth, the air filled with the sound of breaking stone and terrified screams. The alien students ran, their cameras still rolling. The creature lunged toward them, moving impossibly fast for its size. Mira didn't run. She grabbed a broken support rod from the pier and stood her ground. "Go," she shouted. The camera caught the reflection of the creature's eyes as it turned toward her. The next second, the feed shook violently. The image blurred as water and debris filled the air. In the chaos, one student tripped and fell. The camera captured Mira's shadow moving past him, faster than the frame rate could follow. Then came a loud crack, the sound of bone or shell breaking. The feed cut to black for a moment. When it returned, the creature was gone. Mira stood over it, breathing heavily. The alien students huddled behind her, too shocked to speak. She looked down at the twisted body of the creature, then at the trembling students. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "If you ever go near the lake again," she said, "don't forget what you saw tonight." Raylan lowered the camera slowly, his hands shaking. What are you?" he whispered. Mira didn't answer. She turned and walked toward the dorms, the setting suns painting her silhouette in red light. Later that night, Raylan reviewed the footage. His camera's sensors had picked up something strange during the attack. Just before the creature emerged, a second heat signature appeared in the water, human-shaped but enormous, standing behind the monster. When Mira looked into the lake, it looked back. The next morning, the school sent the footage to the local authorities for review. Within hours, it was classified. The council requested a copy, and by the end of the day, every major broadcast across the galaxy carried the same title: The Deathworld Girl. No one knew the full story yet, but the screams at the end of that recording spread faster than any truth could. The alien siege fleet surrounded Earth like a tightening noose. Their ships were sleek and white, glowing with cold energy, forming a perfect circle around the blue planet. The Galactic Council had sent them as a warning, claiming humanity had broken interstellar laws. But every human knew it was more than that. It was fear disguised as justice. Inside the United Earth Command bunker, the war room lights glowed dim red. Commanders and scientists stood around a holographic projection showing the enemy fleet's position. Thousands of alien vessels, each capable of destroying continents, waited for the order to strike. General Mira Dalton stood at the center, her hands on the table. "They're not going to fire," she said quietly. "They're waiting for us to panic." Her second-in-command, Captain Ward, frowned. "With respect, General, they have us surrounded. One mistake and they'll erase us." Mira looked up at the projection of Earth. "We're not surrounded," she said. "They are." With a gesture, she activated a new layer of the map. Hidden behind the moon and buried deep within Earth's magnetic field were hundreds of human ships, dark, angular, and silent. The aliens didn't see them because they weren't broadcasting signals. They were hidden inside gravity shadows, invisible to standard sensors. Ward's eyes widened. "They'll never expect this," Mira nodded. "They think we're scared. That's their mistake." She turned to the comms officer. "Send the signal. Operation Ghostlight is active." Across the solar system, silent code bursts transmitted through light pulses invisible to alien scanners. One by one, Earth's hidden fleets came online. Their engines didn't roar. They whispered through gravity fields. Their weapons didn't glow. They bent light instead. Humanity had built weapons not of fire, but of silence. The alien commander sent another broadcast to Earth. "You have violated galactic law. Your planet will be isolated and disarmed. Comply or be destroyed." Mira smiled faintly. "Let's show them what isolation really means." She gave the order. Instantly, the alien ships began to vanish from their own radar. One after another, their communications failed. The electromagnetic field surrounding Earth reversed polarity, turning their sensor systems against them. The aliens saw hundreds of phantom ships, each appearing in multiple places at once. Panic spread through the enemy formation. They opened fire in all directions, hitting each other instead of the humans. Explosions lit up space like a storm of broken stars. Mira watched the chaos from the command room, her eyes cold. "No shots from us," she said. "Let them destroy themselves." The world watched in silence as the alien fleet tore itself apart. Within an hour, the siege was broken. The Council's mighty armada was gone. Humanity had won without firing a single real weapon. The victory was broadcast across the galaxy. Billions saw it. Billions realized Earth was no longer a primitive world. It was something else, something unpredictable. Days later, the Council's investigation began again. They needed to understand how humans kept surviving impossible odds. The answer once again was hidden in the recordings from Saren Prime. The footage began in a classroom. The alien students sat nervously, their cameras aimed at the human girl who had saved them. Mira Hale sat at her desk, quiet and still. Since the attack at the lake, she had barely spoken. The school officials had insisted she return to normal lessons. They wanted to study her reactions. Her teacher, Lauren, spoke softly. "Mira, we'll conduct a small experiment today. We want to understand how humans sense danger." Mira didn't respond. She only looked at the table in front of her. The class surrounded her with recording devices. The lights dimmed. A soft hum filled the air as sensors measured her heart rate, temperature, and neural signals. Lauren smiled, trying to make it seem harmless. "We will simulate mild stress situations. Nothing harmful." Mira's voice was low. "You shouldn't." The students exchanged nervous glances. Raylan, the insectoid student who had filmed the attack, whispered, "It's safe, right?" Lauren nodded. "Of course. Just observation." He pressed a button. The lights shifted to red. Loud noise filled the room, recorded roars of the creature from the lake. Mira didn't move. Her heartbeat stayed steady even as every alien in the room flinched. Lauren raised the intensity. The sound grew louder. Vibrations shook the floor. The walls flickered with simulated fire. Still, Mira did not move. Her eyes stared straight ahead, focused on nothing. Her breathing slowed, not quickened. Lauren frowned. "Increase level 4. The temperature dropped suddenly, frost forming on the desks. The red light changed to blue. A wave of fear ran through the students. One shouted, "Turn it off!" Lauren reached for the control, then froze. The sensors began to glitch. The temperature kept dropping. The lights dimmed to black. Mira whispered, "Something's here." Before anyone could react, the floor shook. A low rumble echoed from the walls, not from the simulation. The emergency alarms blared. The building's automated system locked the doors. Lauren's voice shook. "It's just a malfunction." The ceiling split open. A massive shape dropped into the room. A shadow made of shifting light like smoke with eyes. The students screamed and ran for cover. The creature moved soundlessly, its form distorting like liquid glass. The cameras kept rolling. The recording caught the creature's outline closing in on the group. Then Mira stood. "Stay behind me," she said quietly. The shadow hissed, its limbs stretching toward her. For a moment, it seemed to blur into the air itself. The sensors screamed warnings of radiation, mass displacement, and unknown energy. Mira stepped forward. Her hands trembled, but her eyes didn't. They glowed faintly in the dark, reflecting the creature's light. Lauren shouted, "Mira, run!" She didn't. She whispered a single word. "No," the shadow lunged. The recording went white. When the picture returned, the classroom was destroyed. Desks burned, walls cracked, glass melted. The students hid under debris, shaking. The creature was gone. In its place was a blackened crater in the center of the room. Mira stood at the edge, her face pale, her arms covered in ash. Lauren crawled toward her, coughing. "What happened?" She looked down at him. "It wasn't supposed to follow me." The recording ended there. When the footage reached the Galactic Council, panic spread. Every analyst, every scientist, every commander who saw it agreed on one thing. The creature wasn't native to Saren Prime. Its energy signature matched no known life form. But it had responded to Mira's presence as if drawn to her. Some believed it was a predator. Others believed it was something worse, something ancient that recognized what humanity really was. In the council chamber, Ambassadors argued for hours. Some demanded humanity's containment. Others called for immediate alliance. The High Speaker finally ended the debate. The humans claim they adapt, it said. But what if they awaken things that should never adapt? On Earth, General Mira Dalton watched the Council's broadcast. She understood the fear in their voices. Humanity had survived every threat not through power, but by changing faster than their enemies could. But she also knew adaptation came with a cost. She turned to her staff. If they fear us now, they'll fear us more when they learn the truth about that girl. Do we have contact with her? The officer asked. Dalton nodded slowly. Not yet, but she's still alive. Outside the window, the stars burned brighter than ever. For the first time in galactic history, every species was beginning to understand that Earth was not a weak world struggling to survive. It was a world that had learned how to face death and make it evolve. And somewhere out there, a young human girl walked alone through a forest on Sarin Prime, her eyes glowing softly in the dark, whispering to something unseen. The stars above Earth flickered unnaturally that night. To the naked eye, they looked like distant twinkles, but in the command decks of the orbital defense fleet, humans knew those weren't stars. They were ships, thousands of them. The alien fleet approached in perfect silence, each vessel miles wide and covered in shifting metallic scales that shimmered like oil under sunlight. They called themselves the Vurex Dominion, conquerors of 12 galaxies, destroyers of 4 civilizations. Their ships formed a ring around Earth, blocking out the sky. Inside the Earth Defense Network headquarters, Admiral Owen stood motionless before a massive window overlooking the planet. His officers whispered in nervous tones, tracking incoming transmissions, counting the enemy's numbers, analyzing every formation. They're sending a message, one of the officers said. Play it, Owen ordered. A holographic figure appeared in the air, a tall alien with a face of smooth silver and hollow eyes that glowed with faint blue light. Humans, the voice said, calm and confident. You are to surrender your world and your weapons. The Dominion does not destroy without reason. Submit peacefully and you may live under our governance. Owen's jaw tightened. And if we refuse? The alien's eyes brightened. Then Earth becomes ash and your species becomes memory. The transmission ended. The command room fell silent. Owen turned toward his officers. They believe fear will work, he said. They've never met humans before. At his command, the holographic map of the solar system expanded. Earth's defense grid came online, fleets rising from orbiting stations, automated rail platforms activating along the moon's surface, and a massive formation of ships hidden in the asteroid belt powering up. The alien fleet advanced, confident and unhurried. Their energy weapons glowed faintly, charging for planetary bombardment. But before they could fire, a strange wave rippled through space. Their targeting systems blinked. Their radar turned blind. Every screen aboard their ships filled with static. Inside the flagship, the Vurex commander roared in confusion. They're jamming us, how? His second officer replied, the interference is spreading through the subspace network. It's not a signal, it's physical. They're bending our sensors. Back on Earth, Owen watched calmly as the alien formation began to scatter. Deploy the mirrors, he said. All across orbit, massive panels unfolded like metallic wings reflecting sunlight. To the aliens, it looked like hundreds of new ships appearing out of nowhere. The reflections created ghost fleets that mimicked movement, tricking the enemy into splitting their fire. The Vurex opened fire on the decoys, unleashing waves of plasma and kinetic rounds. The mirrored panels shattered, but each explosion triggered another illusion, another false reading. Owen gave his next order. Release the swarm. From Earth's shadow, hundreds of small black ships emerged. They weren't warships, but autonomous drones, tiny and agile, each equipped with one purpose, to hijack alien ships from the inside. The drones slipped through the chaos unnoticed among debris. When they reached the enemy hulls, they drilled through and released EMP bursts. One by one, alien ships began to lose control. Systems froze, engines failed, weapons jammed. The Vurex commander realized the trick too late. Their technology is primitive, he shouted, but they are using the battlefield like an illusion. Back on Earth, Owen's fleet didn't fire a single heavy weapon. Instead, they waited. They knew the aliens would turn on each other as their systems went blind. Within minutes, the Vurex ships started colliding, confused by false signals. Explosions lit the dark sky, scattering burning debris across orbit. Owen watched quietly, his voice calm. They thought war was about power. It's about perception. In less than 2 hours, the most feared fleet in the galaxy was crippled. The footage spread fast, humans defeating a superior enemy without brute strength. The Galactic Council, watching from distant systems, began to whisper. They had warned the Vurex not to provoke Earth. Now, they feared what humanity would do next. Weeks later, in a remote star sector, a young scientist named Lyra Voss arrived at the ruins of a destroyed research station. It had belonged to the Council, but now it was dark and lifeless. She was there on orders to recover something, the data core from Project Helion. Her shuttle landed softly on the platform. The silence was heavy, broken only by the hum of the station's fading power cells. Lyra moved carefully through the halls, her flashlight cutting through the smoke and debris. She found the main lab sealed behind blast doors. Using her wrist module, she overrode the locks and stepped inside. The room smelled of burnt circuits and ozone. In the center stood the data core, a metallic sphere humming faintly, still alive. She began downloading the files, but something flickered in the reflection of the glass wall. She turned. For a second, she saw movement like a shadow made of light. Then it vanished. Lyra froze. "Who's there?" No response. She continued the download, watching the progress bar crawl across her screen. Then she noticed the logs, entries made by the last researcher before the attack. Experiment 47. Reaction exceeded expected parameters. Containment breach. It's learning. The next entry was cut off halfway. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The core began to pulse faster. Lyra stepped back. No, stay stable. The sphere cracked open slightly, releasing a thin beam of light that spread like smoke across the room. The sensors on her wrist flashed red. "Unknown energy type detected," a voice whispered faintly through her comm. "Lyra, run." She didn't recognize it. The beam of light solidified into a shape, a humanoid outline, faint and flickering, like a living echo. Its head tilted as if observing her. She slowly raised her scanner. "What are you?" The thing spoke, its voice overlapping itself as if many tones spoke at once. "I am what they feared." The data core burst with static, flooding her systems. Alarms blared through her headset. The entity stepped closer. Lyra stumbled back toward the airlock, clutching the drive she'd managed to pull from the console. The figure didn't move quickly. It just stared, its form distorting like liquid glass. She reached her ship, sealed the hatch, and launched. As the station fell behind, it exploded silently, a ripple of energy tearing through the void. Her shuttle rocked violently, her console filled with alerts. Something had followed her, an invisible distortion just outside the ship. She activated stealth mode, cutting all lights and engines. For minutes, she floated in the dark, breathing quietly, waiting. Then the comm crackled. "Lyra Voss," a voice said, calm and familiar. "It was Admiral Owen. How did you find me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Your ship's distress beacon activated for 3 seconds. That's enough." "I have the data," she said. "But something came out of it." There was a pause. Then Owen said, "We know. We've seen it before." Lyra frowned. "Before?" "On Mars, on the Titan outpost. Everywhere the Council hid their experiments." "You've just woken up one of their mistakes." The comm crackled again. Then silence. Lyra looked out the window. There in the darkness, the distortion moved again, closer this time. She realized it wasn't chasing her ship. It was following the drive in her hand. She whispered, "You're not trying to kill me, are you?" The distortion shifted, forming faint words across the window, shimmering letters that spelled, "Help me." Lyra's heart pounded. She didn't know if it was a trick, a weapon, or something alive. But deep down she understood one thing. The Galactic Council hadn't been trying to destroy humanity. They had been trying to contain it. She gripped the drive tightly and set a course back to Earth. Behind her, the ruins of the station continued to glow, and across the stars, something vast began to stir. Something that had waited for millennia for a mind strong enough to hear its call. Humanity, without knowing it, had just answered. The sky over Earth was burning again, not from sunlight, but from the reflection of thousands of ships. The largest armada ever assembled in galactic history surrounded the planet, stretching from the orbit of the Moon to the edge of Mars. The fleets of the Galactic Council, The Dominion and dozens of independent races had come together for one purpose: to contain humanity. The Council's high speaker broadcast across the system, her voice echoing through every channel. People of Earth, this is not war. It is prevention. You have awakened something that cannot be controlled. Surrender your world. Do not resist. On Earth's surface, the lights of every major city went dark. Power grids shut down. The skies became quiet. But in orbit, the silence was filled with tension. On board the command ship, Helios 1, Admiral Marcus Vale stood before a wide viewport, watching the alien fleet move into formation. "They think we'll bow down," he said quietly. "They still don't understand what kind of world they're dealing with." Behind him, the tactical officer, Captain Elena Frost, studied the displays. "They've blocked every exit vector. There's no chance of escape." Marcus smiled faintly. "Good. That means we don't have to run." On the far side of the moon, hidden within a hollowed crater, Earth's secret weapon was waiting. It wasn't a ship or a missile, but something far stranger. A network of gravitational anchors and plasma conduits, built from technology recovered from the alien ruins on Titan. The project was called the Mirror Line. When activated, it could bend light, heat, and even energy itself. The aliens thought it was just a failed experiment. They had no idea what it truly did. Marcus turned to his crew. "Activate the Mirror Line." A low hum spread through space. The ships nearest the moon began to shimmer, their outlines warping. The alien fleets reacted instantly, firing beams of plasma and antimatter toward the source. But the attacks never reached. The energy bent mid-flight, curving around the invisible barrier like rain over glass. The aliens panicked, realizing too late that every shot they fired was being redirected. Their own weapons turned back toward them, slicing through their formations. Massive ships exploded, their engines igniting in blinding waves. From the Council's flagship, the high speaker shouted, "Impossible!" That technology was forbidden. Marcus watched the destruction calmly. "You taught us fear," he said. "We turned it into strategy." Within minutes, the space around Earth became a graveyard of burning wrecks. The surviving alien ships pulled back, forming a defensive perimeter. The high speaker sent another message. "Human, you don't understand what you've unleashed. The energy you're using, it's not yours. It's from the ancient ones. You'll bring them back." Marcus's expression hardened. Maybe that's the point. Far below, deep within an underground research facility beneath the ruins of old Moscow, Dr. Lyra Holt stared at a pulsing containment sphere. Inside it, a faint shape moved, a being of light, half alive, half memory. The same kind of entity that had escaped the Council station months before. Lyra had spent weeks studying it, learning to communicate. Now it spoke clearly through the speakers, its voice layered and haunting. "They come for me again, but you are not afraid," Lyra whispered. "Because you're not our enemy. You're a survivor. Like us." Outside, tremors shook the facility. Alien drones were landing on Earth, breaking through the final lines of defense. Humanity was outnumbered, surrounded, but no one retreated. Every ship, every soldier, every scientist stood their ground. The being's light brightened. "You seek to use me as a weapon?" Lyra shook her head. "No, as a warning." She pressed her hand against the glass. "They called Earth a Deathworld because they feared what lived here. Let them see why." The containment sphere shattered. The being rose, spreading its light through the chamber. The walls melted, energy pulsing in every direction. In orbit, the alien fleet suddenly detected something massive rising from Earth's atmosphere. At first it looked like a storm, a twisting vortex of clouds and lightning. But within seconds, the storm solidified into form. A colossal shape emerged, glowing with blinding energy. It was neither ship nor creature, but something between, a construct of living light and human engineering. The alien commanders shouted in confusion. "It's reacting to them. The humans merged with it." Marcus's voice came through the open channel, steady and cold. "You said we couldn't control it." "We didn't have to. We just needed to understand it." The construct turned its gaze toward the alien armada. The stars dimmed as it drew power from the Mirror Line network. Then, with a sound that rippled through space, it unleashed a single wave of energy. Every alien weapon, every engine, every artificial intelligence shut down instantly. The ships floated helplessly, dark and powerless. Their systems had been rewritten by something beyond technology, something alive. The high speaker's voice broke through static. "What have you done, human?" "You've awakened the echo. It will consume you too." Marcus watched as the massive construct drifted across space. "No," he said. "It's not consuming us. It's remembering us." The light faded slowly, and for a moment silence returned. The alien fleet was crippled. Earth stood untouched. But in the void beyond Mars, sensors began detecting something else. Massive structures emerging from hyperspace, their design ancient and unrecognizable. Dr. Lyra watched the readings from her underground lab. The beings that the Council had feared, the ones they called the Ancients, were returning. One of her assistants asked quietly, "Should we fight them?" She shook her head. "We already did a long time ago. They just don't remember." In orbit, Marcus received a direct transmission. The voice wasn't human or alien. It was deep, resonant, and familiar. The same voice that had once whispered through the wreckage near Jupiter. "Children of Earth," it said, "you have awakened what was left behind. We remember your kind. You were the ones who broke the chains." Marcus frowned. "Who are you?" The voice replied, "We were your creators and your destroyers. You ended us once. Now you begin again." The communication ended. The alien fleets, powerless and terrified, retreated from the solar system. The Council rescinded its blockade, declaring Earth forbidden territory. But humanity didn't celebrate. They knew what was coming wasn't peace, it was revelation. Weeks later, from the Academy moon where the human girl Aria Holt had vanished, a new signal emerged. A recording. It was the same video the alien students had taken, the one that ended with screams. Only now the footage had changed. In the final seconds, Aria looked straight into the camera. Her eyes glowed with the same light as the construct above Earth. She spoke one sentence, her voice calm and certain. "They are coming home." The feed ended with static. Across the galaxy, worlds that had once mocked humanity went silent. The Council called for emergency summits, but it was too late. In the depths of the void, the stars themselves began to flicker, rearranging like signals. Earth had survived every invasion, every threat, every empire. But what came next was something no one could predict. For the first time in galactic history, the universe looked toward the small blue planet not with fear or curiosity, but with awe. Because humanity had done what no other race dared to do, they had awakened gods, and they were ready to speak with them again.